Ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome back to BB's Customs. I'm Rich, and today is a little bit of a bits and bobs day. Okay, so it's the weekend. It is blisteringly hot. I mean, my head's all shiny from where I'm sweating. It's 26, 27 degrees outside, so we're going to have a nice easy day today. I said in the last video I was going to quickly show you what I'd done to sort out the back of the bike with regards to where the fender is being mounted and the indicators and things, so we'll have a quick look at that and then we'll move on to the front of the bike. Okay, so this is how it looks now. As you can see, I've got the indicators on both sides. I have wired them up. They are now going into this wiring loom. The two neutral wires from the lights have been taped off because they're body earth lights, which means that as long as the indicator itself is attached to the frame with a good connection, they don't need the earth. If you plug the earth in, you'll end up blowing fuses. So we leave those all nice and taped in under there. I have also added this bracket onto here to support the back of the mudguard, because what I was having before, if you remember, is the mudguard was attached to here and used to be held in place with the two bolts which hold the seat on. But that meant that every time you took the seat off, the mudguard would drop down. So now it's got its own bracket down here to support that. I'll screw that on in a minute to show you that. I've also fit a bracket here. Well, it's not a bracket, it's sort of like a bump stop really. So we got one here and one just on the other side there. These are there to support there's a set of rubbers underneath the seat, so when they come down and you sit on it, they're going to sit on here and take up this gap, because beforehand you were sitting on it and the seat was squashing down and I didn't want it crushing any of the electrics in the electronics tray. The mudguard itself has now been fully painted up. You may have seen it in the background on the last video, so that's looking a little bit smarter now. What I've done to make it possible to take it on and off without taking the indicators off is I've cut these grooves in here, which means that I can feed it up underneath the frame of the bike over the indicators and then fit it in place. So I'll do that now and then you can see it all set up and we'll move on to the front. So there, with it all painted up nicely. I mean, it's only a very rough coat on there. I've got to strip it all back off again and paint the frame yet, but just to give an idea of how she's turning out, I mean, that's starting to look the part, that. So if I just put the seat on, then that'll be the complete look of the back of the bike. Then she'll be looking how she will when she's finished. Okay, so there it is with all its pride and glory. You can really start to see how she's going to be looking now. It's exciting because, like, at the moment, the way she sits, I could get on and go for a ride. I mean, I've got no headlight on it at the front, but other than that, other than this loose wire here from the brake light, I need to figure out a sensible way of attaching this all the way along the swing arm. But yeah, she's now a rideable machine. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip her around to get the front out of the little cubbyhole here, and we're going to take the front fender off, chop it down, or look at chopping it down a little bit, and then get that fitted. Okay guys, now that I've got it at the shed and you can look at it properly, I actually quite like that mudguard the way it looks there, so I don't think I'm going to cut it. I might just leave that as it is. But what I have noticed, because this is the first time I've actually put it on the side stand since doing all this stuff to it, and if you look, it's currently sat on a block of wood. Now that's because where I've put the longer rear suspension on, it's low, basically pushed the swing arm down, so the bike can no longer sit on its side stand because it's too short. So instead of chopping the mudguard, I'm going to make that stand longer. Now if I just push the bike up a little, that's roughly where it needs to sit, somewhere around there. So that block of wood is about probably the best part of 1.5 inches long. So I'm going to get the bike back in the workshop, take the stand off, cut it in half and weld in an extra piece. Okay, so it's been a few days since the nice sunny start of this video. I've now taken the stand off and I've cut it in half. I've cleaned up the ends, so I've got a nice clean finish to weld to, and I have had a friend of mine who's quite handy on a lathe turn up this little insert for me. So this is going to sit inside the body of the stand like that and make it that much longer. It's about 40mm, but what I've got him to do is just leave these nice big shoulders on here. If I bring this in, nice big shoulders on here. These are 15mm aside, so I can actually, if I need to, space it out a little like that and fill the gap with weld, rather than having it all butted up. Would be nice, it'd be a stronger job, but if I need to, I can just sort of tease it out a little bit more at both ends, so it could look something like that, and then just fill that gap up with weld and it'll still be perfectly strong. So what I'm going to do is fit this part back onto the bike, just piece it together, slot it together like that, lean the bike on the stand and just see how close we are to where we need to be. Okay, so we've got the bike out of the stand at the back. We've got, I mean, it's only loose on there at the moment, but we've got the top half of the stand fitted here. Got the foot with the extension in, so we're going to sit that in there, and then just gently lean the bike down until the stand takes the weight, like that. So, and this is fully supporting the bike now. The lean of the bike is okay. It still might be a little bit far, to be honest. So what I might do is just put a small bead of weld around the extension in there, just to give it like an extra, like a 5mm shoulder, just to pick it up a bit, and that'll probably sit it more like that, which would be a bit more acceptable, I think. So yeah, I'm happy with that. Now, one thing to bear in mind when you do a stand extension is, if I zoom you out a sec, oh no, hang on, we're already fully out. When the stand's back up in its stored position, when you put longer suspension on, if you imagine that, like this is the back of the bike and this is the swing arm, when you put longer suspension on, it looks like you're doing this with the back, but what you're actually doing is doing that with the swing arm, which means that the chain hanging off the bottom of it is sitting lower. So when the stand is pulled back up, if I make this too long, it'll start rubbing on the chains. What I might have to do is just put a little hard stop on the back of the stand to go up against the bracketry underneath here to make sure that we don't hit the chain. But we'll weld that up, I'll get it back in the stop, and then we can have a look. Okay, so what I've actually done before welding it, if I zoom, get the focus right on there, to make sure that it's all in the right orientation, I've marked here and here with a file so they line up, and then when that's welded on, I have marked the same on here. Can you see that? So there and there with a file, so those line up. Because obviously if zoom out, if you put any twist in like that, then things aren't going to line up properly and the foot's not going to sit right when the bike's on the stand. So I'll get the first bit welded on, because that honestly doesn't matter which way around it goes, it's just a round tube. Well no, tell a lie, that does, ignore that. If I don't line that up with there, then this line won't be in the right position when I line it up with that, which is why I marked both ends. This is why I talk to myself. I have the best staff meetings. I'm also going to give it a little bit of a gap, like I discussed earlier. So we're going to hold that in like that. Okay, right, so this is now tacked together, just a couple of welds on each bit so it can't fall apart. I'll get it back on the bike, make sure that we are all lined up where we want to be, fully weld it, and then we'll be ready to blast some paint onto it. Okay, so that's all welded together. It's still a bit hot at the moment, which is why I've still got the glove on, but once it's cooled off, and it's moved on a bit in time because it's quite early and people are still asleep, I shall get the grinder out, clean off the weld rings on there, paint it all up and fit it back on the bike. So that'll be a job well done. So I was putting a comment in the last video to update my list as to what's been done and what still needs to be done. So last time I did this, the to-do list was the front and rear mudguard, new headlight, indicators and rear light, exhaust, mirrors, tank, side panels, and the clocks on the front, the speedo and the rev counter. So what have we done? The rear mudguard is on, the front mudguard is kind of on. I'm of two minds about whether to change that. I like the way it looks with the whole the complete fender on there, because it's not the actual fender for the bike. It came off of I think a cb250 because it's chrome instead of black, but I think it goes well with the look of the bike, so I might leave that as it is. So we can say that that one is 95% done. Headlight still needs to go on, the indicators and the rear light are on, so that's done, the exhaust is done, side panels are done. I'm not going to move the clocks because honestly I quite like the retro look. It goes well with the rest of the bike, so I'll leave them as it is. It also means I don't have to worry about any discrepancies in mileage readouts and things like that. So we'll call that done. So the main things which are left to do are to fit the headlight, refurbish the tank, put some mirrors on it, and then it'll be down to the MOT centre, I suppose, which is exciting. I've got to put a lick of paint on the handlebars just to tidy them up. Or I could just leave them as they are, I suppose. But yeah, we're getting them. We are so very close to finishing. The tank is really the next big thing which needs to be done, so I shall start tackling that soon. And before I declare it finished, I do need to take everything back off of it, so it's almost down to just the bare frame, give everything a good clean just to make sure that I've not missed anything which could be repaired whilst I'm doing this, clean off any rust spots and repaint it, things like that, just to tidy it all up. But yeah, once that's done and it's all back together, paint the tank, put some mirrors on it, put a headlight on it, and then we're good. So fingers crossed, this build series is very nearly finished, and then we'll be on to the next bike, which has arrived, but I'm not telling you what it is yet. You'll have to wait and see. I hope you've enjoyed the build series so far. I've enjoyed doing it. I think now that we're close to the end and you can really see how she's looking, I'm pleased at the moment. I hope you like it as much as I do. This bike will be going up for sale, as I've said before. My plan at the moment is to do it as raffle tickets. I'm probably going to price the tickets at about £5 each, which means that in the very near future someone is going to win a fully working, fully MOT'd bike, a one-off custom, for a £5. As I've said before, all the profits made from this bike are going to be donated to the NHS, and then the money I've put into it will then be reserved for the next bike build, so that I can keep this channel going. So yeah, hopefully it'll draw a lot of attention and we'll have a tidy little sum of money to give over to a good cause. Yeah. Thanks very much for your continued support. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Remember to stay safe, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.